The account on X is known as Data Republican, and it's done, I think, the best job of mining the data because it's voluminous, connecting the dots and putting it together so that we can truly get a better grasp of exactly what our government has been doing to us and taking from us. The woman who helms that account joins us now. We want to do what we can to keep her identity. There she is. We want to keep her personal identity secure so that she is free from corporate media types who would love to do something to intimidate her so that she can't continue doing the yeoman's work, the Lord's work that she's doing. She's also deaf and nonverbal. So we're going to be speaking directly to her, but her answers will come to us through her translator as well. And I wanted to make sure we did this interview first and foremost just to say, well done, good and faithful servant. I mean, what you have done with this work the last few weeks has been nothing short of extraordinary. And so with over 70% of Americans still not having an X account, I want to make sure more of our audience is open to what you've been doing, but then also to get some ideas of what exactly this data means. So let's start with this. How about an introduction to our audience about your work? Tell us about yourself, what you do, and how you got into this.
Yeah, sure, of course. Thank you so much, Steve. So you can call me the Data Republican on X. Thank you. And to be really honest, I'm a software engineer. Like back in 2020, I built a website that tracked Florida votes in real time. And what happened was it got a lot of attention because it accurately predicted the results from Florida. So anyway, now that we get to 2024, I mean, it's more prediction. And then when I started looking, I'm just one person, and I started looking, and now I saw the award database, and I was talking to people, and it just doesn't make sense. I was trying to read it, and in my experience, it makes the search in the award database. I released it on the Data Republican website, and it just makes the search a lot easier because it is really, really hard to search that database. So now my tool has become very popular and went absolutely viral.
What led you to this particular investigation into USAID? And you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but do you have a background doing this kind of analysis in the political arena before?
Yes, I do. Yes, I'm a deep specialist. I'm actually a database kernel engineer, and I also develop machine learning algorithms. And that really gives me a very strong understanding of what AI can and cannot do. So I've also done, before for many years, little political analysis here and there for politicians for many years, actually, but nothing even close to the scale that I've done in 2024 when I analyzed the predictions of all 50 states. So now the network of NGOs and government grants is incredibly complex. I mean, if we didn't have AI to make sense of this data, I think it would be really impossible to even find these things. And I think that's why we're all learning this for the first time, because we now have access to AI tools.
If you could summarize the data you've been able to mine from USAID, if you could summarize it, what would you say it says as a summary?
Well, it's really hard to summarize if I'm being honest with you, but it's really a soft power structure that was built around these 8 core NGOs with the NED, that's the National Endowment for Democracy, right? And that's really at the center. And it's an organization that President Trump just defunded. So originally, these 8 groups, they were created to counteract communism around the world. But now that communism is finished and after the Soviet Union collapse, they did not disband. Instead, they rebranded themselves as defenders of democracy, and they just expanded their power. And they literally became a government all to themselves. And now, not all US aid funds actually flow through these 8 groups. It's not really like that. But these groups, they really control how much of the money is actually used. And in many ways, these 8 groups, they set up their own parallel government, really, one that operates outside direct control of taxpayers. And there's all these political figures, including Lindsey Graham and Donna Brazil and Tom Daschle. And the conflict of interest is, it's enormous. I mean, Congress allocates billions to these organizations, and they also direct that money. These same political insiders dictate how that money shapes the world.
Can you provide us some of the more egregious examples that our audience maybe should know about what you're describing, but maybe they're not aware of them yet? I mean, everybody's heard about Politico, for example, but so maybe some other things that they should be aware of that they have not heard yet.
Yeah. I mean, we've all heard about like the really weird USAID grants, like funding dance workshops in Wuhan, China, or like grants for grant writing, grants for grants. But what was the most just weird and disturbing thing for me was finding the existence of what I'm calling a true uniparty. The uniparty is real. Now, take the National Endowment for Democracy, for example. Trump just canceled it, right? It was designed originally to unite both the Republican and the Democratic Party against communism. But now it accidentally created a system where both parties operate together under the same umbrella. But at the same time, they're pretending to be opponents. So the International Republican Institute, the IRI, and the National Democratic Institute, the NDI, were meant to reflect partisan affiliations. They were meant to be separate. Yet they continue their power structure, and they're not transparent, and they're not taking responsibility. And and they just say it's all to protect democracy, but really, democracy is now being challenged and it's having a problem because the power structure is outside of responsibility, and they routinely transfer funds between each other and finance the same programs. And they keep saying it's all to save democracy. And they just take all the money and they give it to themselves, billions in taxpayer money.
Based on the dots you've connected here, would you say this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to widespread corruption, grift, etc.?
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. A family of 4 spends at least $80,000 a year in federal spending, and much of it is on borrowed money. It's debt. Like, if you ask the average American if they're getting the value in their services, I mean, most people would say probably not. Like, so where is the money going? It's not just vanishing into thin air. One person, somebody is benefiting from this. And when you see that these politicians in Congress are designed to have these moderate salaries, and then they leave as millionaires, you have to ask, is that really a coincidence? And to that, we're only seeing a very small part, the very top of the iceberg, for sure.
So, Data Republican, we're a biblical worldview show first and foremost. I know you take your faith very seriously as well. Have you found any evidence of those purporting to be Christian leaders or church leaders / organizations caught up in this? Not necessarily maybe they got funds from this organization through 5 different channels they weren't aware of, but like directly involved in the grift pyramid here.
Yes. Yes, unfortunately, many churches and faith-based have accepted USAID funding. And that became possible because George Bush, he made that possible. But there's a key restriction. They have a limit. They cannot use those funds for evangelism, for preaching. And they can't speak out about other religions. But Christianity is built specifically on one great commission. And Jesus was very clear about that, about spreading the gospel. And it's hard to imagine him accepting funding that required Jesus to stay silent about faith. And then there's the other factor at play. Unlike other nonprofits, churches are not required to file a Form 990. And that means that there's less financial transparency. And that alone might make church government funding an attractive option for more cynical players, bad actors who might not be motivated by religious goals.
I had not even considered that.
That means, I don't know about other religions, right? I don't know about other religions, but I personally would be very skeptical of any Christian church which accepts USAID money or any federal funding.
What are you continuing to pursue with this and other stories like this? What are the next things you're looking for?
Well, right now, one of the biggest thing I'm focusing on is uncovering a very deep web of connections between very, very powerful people. Because, when you dig long enough, there's just so many connections and you just start to see how deep it goes. For example, Kimberly Kagan. She's the co-founder of the Institute for the Study of War with Bill Kristol. So her brother, Robert Kagan, wrote a controversial article accused of encouraging Trump's assassination, really encouraging that. And Robert Kagan is married to Victoria Nuland, she was a key, she was very deep in U.S. foreign policy. Yes. And it's all related, to the uniparty NGOs. And now a dictator of one of the 8 core uniparties. And these relationships transcend party lines. Just like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you're not in it. Right now, I'm working on an AI-driven project. It's a graph to map all these connections, make it easier for everyone to search and see how all these people are really connected together and where the money is going behind the scenes.
I've got about 1 minute left here. What's your biggest takeaway from all of this thus far?
Yes. We are the middle of the second American Revolution. I am not joking. The American public needs to engage and recognize that this is not about partisanship. In his first term, we need to be together, and we have to get back together our country. This is not about parties. we should all be outraged. The system exists outside of our control, and we need to get it back.
Incredible conversation, and you are doing incredible work. And thank you for joining us, taking a time out from that work. Hopefully we can shine an even brighter light on it to draw more people to it if they want to follow Data Republican on X. It's where you want to go, Data Republican on X. And again, sister, well done. Good and faithful servant. Keep it up. And we are certainly keeping up with your work. God bless.
Thank you. God bless you as well. Thank you so much. Love.
All right. Thank you.